What up, though? Hola, mi gente. It's your host who in the neighborhood and streets the most, J Hodge, within your hood, in yourhood.com. And welcome to another news segment of Hood Sites. Now, you already know what we're here to do, plug you with information about things that you may know and disrupt the things that you just do not know and the information that you do not know. We understand everybody don't have the time to sit down and seek out information. So, I'm bringing you sourced information from my personal selection of readings, of daily readings that I do every day, starting at 4:30 a.m. Now, I want to give you some insight into this week and what has occurred. The Federal Open Market Committee has deemed itself not to be changing any monetary policy as it relates to inflation. So inflation by the Federal Reserve Bank and the Federal Open Market Committee is being seen as not an issue, and they're calling the issue a issue that doesn't require any changes at this time. So they expect inflation to stay at and under 2%. But at the same time, other economists, other experts of the stock market, and other investors do not see inflation as a non-issue or a problem that doesn't need to be attended to at this time. So again, if you haven't been paying attention to the FOMC, you need to pay attention to what's going on with that, because like I always say, if you invested in the stock market and if you are a consumer, it affects you as both, because inflation is not good for the dollar and it's not good for the cost of living. So make sure you check that out. And like I said before, the earnings reports are still going. It is estimated that the last earnings report for the remaining companies that have to report their earnings for the fiscal year and for the quarter one end is expected to be May 15th. So it's still some time to go. So check it out and get in tune and get plugged in with the information you need to know about the economy and how it affects you at home and in your community. Continuing. Today's news segment is called Wrongly Convicted Man Spent 5 years in Prison because Hertz didn't provide a receipt that proved his alibi. Continue. Nationwide, Herbert Alford, an African-American man who spent almost 5 years in prison after being wrongfully convicted for a murder he didn't commit, is now suing Hertz for failing to promptly provide the receipt that would have confirmed his innocence. Continuing. In 2015, Alford was arrested after police suspected that he was responsible for a 2011 murder. A year later, he was convicted of second-degree murder, even though he maintained his innocence, saying he was renting a vehicle several miles away from the original scene of the murder. Alford said he was renting a car from the airport in Lansing, Michigan, just minutes before the murder of 23-year-old Michael Adams happened at a strip mall 20 minutes away from the airport, making it physically impossible for him to be the gunman. Prayers to his family. However, Hertz wasn't able to turn over that evidence in a timely manner. They were only able to provide the receipt in 2018, which led to his exoneration. Alford filed a lawsuit against Hertz and is seeking compensation of at least $25,000. Had the defendants not ignored and disobeyed numerous court orders requiring them to produce the documentation that eventually freed Mr. Alford, he would not have spent over 1,700 days incarcerated, Alfred's attorney Jamie White said, according to CNN. Meanwhile, a Hertz representative said the company is deeply saddened about what happened to Alfred. Spokeswoman Lauren Luster said, while we were unable to find the historic rental record from 2011, when requested in 2015, we continued our good faith efforts to locate it. With advances in data search in the recent years following, we were able to locate the rental record in 2018 and promptly provided it. The charges against Alfred were finally dropped in December 2020, but it won't change the fact that he was in prison for 5 years for a crime he did not commit. End of article. So again, the title of this news segment is Wrongly Convicted Man Spent 5 years in Prison Because Hertz Didn't Provide a Receipt That Proved His Alibi. And unfortunately, what we have today is a circumstance where cultural identity didn't work for us. Cultural morals, values, and principles didn't work for us. And specifically for him. And this is a cultural challenge, issue, and constraint. These wrongful imprisonments. But more importantly, we still have cultural power in this situation. Because now you need to be aware that when you step into a Hertz location, Hertz as an entire organization is a representation of this circumstance that happened to an innocent black man that was wrongly convicted and spent 5 years unwarrantedly for a murder that he did not even commit and that he had no presence within. He was completely disassociated with anything that was happening with that incident. And still prayers to that family of that young man who died. But what we have to recognize through our cultural power and through our cultural identity is that a company like Hertz is very, very dishonorable, disgraceful, demeaning, and disrespectful to our culture. All it takes is for a unrighteous act, a prejudice act, a discriminative act to be done against one of ours in our culture for it to apply to all of us if we are ever in a situation similar. But what we learn from this is that we have to think not once, not twice, but 3 times before you decide to spend your dollars with a company and with a business or institution that has been involved in any prejudice or discriminative actions or decision making against our culture. We have the power. The cultural power is in our spending, in our economy. The black dollar. The dollars that's exchanged from black hands. And our cultural morals, values, and principles has to be utilized and exercised because this is what guides us day to day. And I can personally say that you will not find me utilizing any services of Hertz, given the knowledge of this situation that obviously was smothered, suppressed, and unattended to in a very prejudiced and discriminative manner. And so for me personally, I look at Hertz and its representation as a company of prejudice and discrimination, disrespect, and ultimately insult to my culture and anybody that is a part of my culture. And although we don't have relationships with every single black person in our culture, we are still an alliance, and we are still a nation of people. We are a group. We are a pack. And we have to be responsible for the well-being of each of our counterparts in our culture. So, when it comes to Hertz Corporation, think not once, not twice, not even 3 times. Think 4 times before you decide to take your wallet out of your pocket and consider this very demeaning and devaluing circumstance that occurred with an innocent black man that Hertz, under any other circumstance, would have used its expediency to make sure someone of another cultural group was quickly and expediently exonerated given the same circumstances. So, today, take that with you to be more aware, be more conscious, be more aware, be more conscious, be more aware, be more conscious, be more aware, be more conscious of where you are consuming your dollars, and have an understanding of what that institution actually in its true essence represents. Because Hertz represents a prejudice. Hertz represents discrimination. Hertz represents dehumanizing, devaluing, demeaning of black people, of our cultural group. And it was displayed very blatantly in this circumstance. No humane act has been done to provide any atonement to this man for what he was susceptible to due to their negligence and neglect. And the right thing and the righteous thing to do would be to ensure that the sincerity of what they call their deep sadness for what he had to endure is felt by actually making sure that he receives due compensation in excess of what he has actually requested for 5 years of being staggered by a single white document called a receipt. A receipt. So, our cultural power and our cultural identity is always put to the test, but we always have the power. But you have to identify where the power lies in any given circumstance or situation. And in this situation, is with the fact that we do not have to spend money with Hertz Corporation. And that our cultural power lies in our economic weight. And that also our cultural identity allows us to identify these sort of circumstances that are reoccurring in society, that allows us to flex our cultural power in very proactive ways. So all isn't lost, but here's a black man who lost 5 years. Time can never be redeemed. But the financial losses that he incurred during 5 years of being stagnated and staggered, that can be redeemed. That can be retrieved. And Hertz Corporation has to do that in excess of what he actually is requesting from the damage done and the losses incurred. That's what we have today. So take this circumstance, take this news, take this information with you, and think 3 times, 4 times before you decide as a black woman or man to spend your dollars with Hertz Corporation. Like I always say, visit the website www.inyourhood.com. Streaming live 24/7 is our television series, our lecture videos, and what's available 24/7 is our Black History, True Essence of Black History that we have on the website, and telling the unspoken and the documented but untaught Black history that we all need to know. Also, we have global black news, local black news, and of course black businesses. And we're forever looking for more of all sorts and of all industry types. And also social media, our Instagram at His Excellency _J.Hodge. Facebook, subscribe. You can search J space Hodge, HAJJ, for our In Your Hood YouTube channel. Again, under the name J Hodge. And we have more content, material, features, news, updates to come. Make sure you sign up for a free account on the website www.inyourhood.com. And like I always say, I'm going to get on y'all tomorrow.